So the next element I want to talk about is the HTML table. So the table is how we create charts or tables like this one here on the MDN page for table. There's a table here. You can see we have a chart. There's another table here for colors. And then here's a few examples of the types of things that we're going to work on. So these are tables in HTML. They're pretty simple. Obviously, they're not the most beautiful things without styling, but they are very useful to display information in a tabular format. I'm going to go ahead and comment a lot of this file out. Remember, in Sublime, it's command/. And I'm going to put in a new table element. And inside of every table, and this is where it gets a little tricky because there's a few different ways of doing this. The first way I'm going to show you is we write a TR element, which stands for table row. And then inside of each table row, we put a TD element. So I'm going to just write this out just to show you something first, then we're going to come back and discuss it. So TD, and we're just going to put some random text here. So let's go back to colors, red and orange. And let's leave it at that. I refresh my page and I have a beautiful table. However, I don't have any border on this table, so it's hard to see what's happening. You would do this using CSS ordinarily. This is not a really great idea, the way that I did it here with the border attribute. This is sort of the old way of doing it. This is how you could do it back in HTML4, basically before things became more oriented around doing all your styling in your CSS. So you can still do it. I'm just going to do it here just to show you what's happening. So what I've done is made a table that is one row and it has two elements, two TDs inside of a row. So I could make another row and I'm going to make green and yellow. And take a moment to just think about what this should look like. When I refresh, we'll have two rows now, red and orange and yellow and green. So again, we've got table, we've got TR for each row, and then a TD for each cell. So that's great. The next thing though that I want to show is how we could create a heading on the table. So let's change our data a bit and let's make this table about people. So we'll have something like name and age. And then below that, we'll have, name is, maybe this is dogs. How about that? Rusty, my dog who's 2, Wyatt, my other dog who is 13, and so on. So to do this, we want name and age to be part of the table. It's kind of the bolded heading of the table. And so there's another element. We'll make another row, and rather than TDs, we're going to use a tag called TH. So TH is for table head or table header, and we're going to have name and age. And then our first row, we'll go ahead and fill out Rusty, and his age is 2. And then our next row will be Wyatt, and his age is 13. It's getting old for a dog. So I refresh the page. Oh, well, you can see my beautiful diagram. Let's comment that out. And now here's my table. So I've got my THs in one row, and then I've got another row with 2 elements, and then another row with 2 elements. So one other thing we can discuss here. There is a slightly more complicated way to make the exact same table. And it's not really more complicated, it's just another tag or 2 that gives our table more meaning. So right now, our heading information, these 2 headers, are just part of a regular TR. So there's no distinction between this TR and this TR. They're both just table rows. Well, in HTML5, again, the emphasis is on making HTML, on having markup that is somewhat meaningful, so that if some other code is looking at this site, someone who is using a screen reader code can see my HTML and read it, and it will know the heading, and it will know what's the body of the table. That might behave slightly differently than if it just reads all of the rows out loud. So what we do, there are 2 elements that we can add, and there's a T head and a T body. And these will not make a difference at all in the appearance. But what I can do is just move the heading stuff, everything that corresponds to this top part, into a T head. And then what I'll do is move the actual body of the table, all the content, into T body. So it looks identical, nothing should change. And let's just do one other quick change here. So let's add another column. So this will be name, age, and breed. So Rusty is a mutt, and Wyatt is a golden. There we go. So that's the basics of tables. Again, they're not usually that ugly. We usually use CSS. And so this is just a normal table without any styling. And then we'll go into CSS and change the fonts and add a border and background colors and all of that. Okay, great.